Start.
Sadashiv Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad-pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badaraya Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punar. It's Punar Punah, right?
Yeah. Punar
Punah.
Punaha.
Punaha. Sorry, next time we'll improve.
Okay.
Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
So, welcome everyone to the class, and we are going to continue now from chapter 2 that we had started. And as I said in the last class, having finished the basic context in which Bhagavad Gita is addressing us, we are now going to see a very important Bhashyam written by Shankaracharya. Before that, I want to make a clarification, because some of you are new to the subject, some of you have deeper interest, some of you are hearing it just out of curiosity. There are different grades at which people come to the class. The clarification I want to make is, why am I taking the Gita the way I am doing it? So that you will understand the angle from where I have approached to convey the knowledge with the help of the Bhashyam. Gita is studied at different levels. As I said, based on people's interest. Ideally speaking, I'm going to start from the topmost. If you have noticed, by now my approach has always been start from the topmost, because that's what I have learned from the Upanishads. Address the most qualified person first, whose deepest interest is. Address that first, because there's nothing more precious than that person's time and life and energy. Their interest deserves your attention. The subject needs to be imparted to the one who has a lot of interest, deep interest, mumukshutvam, and has approached the knowledge for that sake. After that, there are gradations. Everyone's accepted in the parampara. Everybody, whoever has even the slightest interest, even out of curiosity, is allowed to be there, because in time, adhikaratvam will come. But the highest is that. So based on different interests, Gita is a book which is in between. It is neither Upanishad nor it is a Prakarana Grantha. It is not just an introductory text, neither is it an Upanishad. It comes in between, so it brings in a lot of adhikaratvam scope in it. A lot of people it can address straight away. Different level at which they will grasp, and what they will take from the text. So, averagely speaking, ideally, the topmost is Vedanta is a Shruti Praman. Shruti means Upanishads, as we have seen. Upanishads were always taught with explanations. There are explanations. Based on the kind of explanations, there were different sampradayas of the same Upanishads. So you have Vishishtadvaita Sampradaya, you have Dvaita Sampradaya, you have different Sampradaya. Sampradaya means what? It means there is an explanation of these texts from a particular standpoint. And the way they look at the verses, the siddhant they come up with, what is their basic premise that they address? Keeping in mind the fundamentals of a human experience needs to be addressed, because we need to know what is our life about, what are we doing here on the planet, what is death, etc., etc. All the questions that are there. So, based on the highest category in the olden days, Shastra was opened to person who sought it, and the characteristic of the person was they had deep interest and they had supported vairagyam for it. Vairagyam for sense pleasures. Vairagyam for sukha bhog. Adequate. You don't have to go to extremes. Therefore, when they approached, the explanations that were given had to be so complete that they could address even the other sampradayas' perceptions, other thoughts, resistive thoughts, counter thoughts, they could address them. That made a sampradaya complete, which could hold its own vision against the opposing outlooks. In that process, every word of the text had to have a pada praman. Pada praman means the word had to be understood according to the rules of grammar, vyakarna. There had to be a vakya praman, means your each word making a sentence, that sentence should have pramanata, validity. It should be yukti praman. It should be nyaya praman. It should hold the validity of reason, logic. And it should also be verifiable in one's experience. Anubhav praman. It should have the Anubhav praman as well. To explain all this in a sense that the tatparyam, the essence of that verse, of the text, of what is being said, that tatparyam should remain non-contradictory throughout. There should be one vision. Siddhant is tatparya nishchay. That tatparya means extracting the essence. That's the premise of that darshan, of that sampradaya. That should be non-contradictory throughout all the various Upanishads, the texts various. They cannot contradict the Siddhant. When a sampradaya could hold all this in society, and they were passing it on to the next generation, it was all a Karna sampradaya initially, everything was heard, and there was a lot of inflexibility, rigidity. on the part of the receiver, you had to be very extra disciplined that you do not transfer your individual perception onto the conveying of the knowledge. Your individual perception cannot color the knowledge. There was a rigidity about it. That's why paramparas were rigidly held. Sampradaya was rigid because it was holding the entire knowledge, and that knowledge was handed to the next generation. So the pada vakya, pada vichar, vakya vichar, nyaya vichar, along with siddhanta vichar, purva paksha would come in, means opposite contradictory views. They would be presented, then they would be negated. This, along with certain examples, had to be given to convey the point. So this is a system of knowledge. And sampradayas were all valid. So it's not that there is only one. If it has formed a sampradaya, Dvaita sampradaya is valid, Advaita sampradaya is valid. A person could figure out what their gravitation towards is, what they gravitate towards. As a result of which, this inflexibility was marking the discipline, intellectual discipline, capacity to hold the knowledge was primary, while it was being delivered to the next seeker, to another seeker. This entire explanations that were there in the texts, various acharyas were giving it. Shankaracharya compiled it in a way. The sampradaya, which is Advaita Vedanta Sampradaya. So what is Bhashyam really speaking? Bhashyam is, a lot of people have a misunderstanding, it's Shankara's commentary. It's not Shankara's commentary as his own perception, as his own teaching. It's not started with Shankara. There were acharyas behind him. He himself mentions that in certain contexts. And what he did was, he's perhaps one who wrote that what was being heard by various people, holding it in their minds and giving it to the next seeker, who was holding in the mind and giving it to the next seeker. Shankara wrote it down because as time has to pass, human minds, being indulgent, would not hold the knowledge. And the objectivity of seeing it for its own sake, irrespective of personal viewpoint, would be overpowered by one's desires and impatience and sensory attractions, etc. The quality of the antakaranam to hold clearly a subtle idea, sukshma, as sukshma as Atma, uspe vichar. The Vishay is sukshma. To hold that sukshma vichar, the antakaran has to be very refined, equally sukshma. You know, in English, when we say only a Milton understood a Milton or a Shakespeare understands a Shakespeare, etc. To hold something which is subtle, there must be at least some proximity to that subtlety. If we are equally subtle, we don't need the teaching. That's our perception. It will be only validity. But close to that perception, that will help us to hold it. But Shankara, thanks to him, total gratitude. Otherwise, there are generations of seekers. In every generation, there are seekers, real seekers, genuine seekers. But if you are matured in your thinking with vairagyam, having as a base in you, and you have a reflective mind, you have a viveka shakti, which has prompted vairagyam in your life, you are able to see the limitedness of gains in life etc. And it has disenchanted you enough to not pursue it helplessly. You just pursue it for whatever it's worth it, not helplessly. For the sake of those, the Bhashyam holds that sampradaya explanation. So it has a whole authority, it has a whole validity of being able to deliver Advaitam as a vision. What is Advaita vision? What is Advaita itself? Advaita. Dvait jahan nahi dikta, jahan nahi hai, where Dvait is not known, experienced, where Dvait is not recognized, where Dvait is not existing. That perception, that knowledge, that recognition, that understanding is Advaitam. That Advaita Parampara is what Shankara has written in his Bhashyam. So Bhashyam also has a certain inflexibility in the sense that it conveys very accurately a word meaning, sentence meaning. It provides the reasons, examples, and if the topic is extremely subtle where another school deviated from it and has another sampradaya on it, it will bring that point up as Purva Paksha, and then the Siddhant is re-established. And that is how the student of Vedanta grows exponentially in his intellectual faculty also, because it provides tremendous clarity to the topic. So Bhashyam study has great advantage in the long run. It makes your mind extremely reflective. It holds the knowledge so clearly, provided, of course, one has followed it and has been able to hold it. And in time, you can see through all the other darshanas, you can see through all the other schools, even Laukik Vyavahar, because your Siddhant has got clarified. There is no doubt left in your mind. So you reach the stage of Nididhyasanam to that an extent. Nididhyasanam means deeper contemplation. So Shravanam is your first approach, hearing Vedanta. Mananam is reflecting, removing, questioning whatever arises as questions, getting them clarified. It is the subject's responsibility. It's the sampradaya responsibility to address those questions. And once those questions have been addressed, the mind has now no doubt left with reference to what the topic is, what the tatparyam is. Thereby, this blessed jiva can sit forever in Nididhyasan till the perception has matched on Advaitam. That the truth is Brahman and you are that Brahman. Till that recognition dawns on the person, there has to be a whole lot of conviction. So Bhashyam helps tremendously in building that conviction. As I said, it's meant for the real seeker, endowed with some Vairagyam and Viveka and Mumukshutvam, and of course Shraddha, Shamadama, Ādi Shankaracharya Sampatti has in some degree discovered. Averagely, people just do the Moolam study. Moolam means you just explain the verse. The teacher just explains the verse. In the verse, while teaching, the teacher has a lot of flexibility. You can pick up the concept. You don't have to do Pada Vichar, Vakya Vichar. You can pick up something that inspires. You can see the audience. You can address the audience, and whatever will suit the audience, you can have a little flexibility in how you convey it. You can take your examples, you can teach through examples, you can bring stories, you can bring parables, you have a lot of freedom to convey what the Moolam is saying, of course not deviating out of the Moolam. as long as you're conveying the verse. You can pick up the idea and just convey the idea. That's what happens, like if you have shorter duration, 5 days where you're doing one chapter, or yajnas were used to happen 5-7 days, you finish a chapter, etc. These are moolam study. Moolam means, by word moolam means just the moola grantha. Moola grantha is the verse in itself, the shlok in itself. When a teacher has the flexibility to not get into each and every word in details, and why is that meaning derived? So what is a Bhashyam doing? It is helping the student to understand, why have we come to this understanding of this? What does the Moolam do? It just gives you the meaning. It just gives you that this is the meaning of this verse. You're not told why is it the meaning. There's no need for it, because a student may not even have the capacity or the intellectual agility to grasp it. So a teacher will probably just assess the group or assess the audience and deliver it as an introductory, inspiring material that can hold their minds. They may enjoy it, they can revel with it. In time, there's definitely going to be some growth with it. So Moolam is one form of study. Bhashyam is not addressed. Bhashyam is another form of study. What are we going to do? We are going to be predominantly Moolam based, but going to take up the Bhashyam wherever it is essential. So the meaning of the Moolam is entirely going to be based on the Bhashyam. Entirely, as in you will identify the words in time, and if anybody grows more interested in the subject, in the long run it's extremely helpful to build one vision. So, am I made this clear? So why are we doing this? Why am I making it clear? Because a lot of us, if you don't see the difference between the two, Bhashyam can overwhelm. Ye Sanskrit words kya hai? It's going to be a lot of effort to try to remove that overwhelmingness and approach the subject with its meaning. But if it does, stay with it. Don't give it up. Stick to the Moolam, stick to what you understand, and slowly it will add on. Am I clear here? Is there any question on the approach? Clear? Great. All okay? Okay, great. So we are going to start with the Upodghata. Upodghata is a very, it is an introductory commentary. It is an introduction to Bhashyam that Shankara has written on the Gita. It's an introductory Bhashyam, also called Avatarika, or just Sambandha Bhashyam. Mostly Sambandha Bhashyam means Shankara has the style of connecting the actual portion with the previous portion, because as I said, we have picked up the Gita from in between. There is a whole lot of Mahabharata behind. A connection made between what has gone and what is to come, along with what one is going to get benefited from. Why is he writing this? Like I just said, why am I taking this approach? Every teacher has to give its stand clearly so that the student knows what they have to take from where, how. So here, he's starting this Upodghata, introductory text, Sambandha Bhashyam, and the first, he gives an invocation himself, but not that he writes it himself. This is picked up from Brahmanda Purana, one of the Puranas. It's a verse I have tried to find where exactly it is. I have still not found the reference. I just know I've been told this is from Brahmanda Purana. The exact reference I also don't have. But what is the verse? It's a very beautiful verse. Take it as a Mangal Shloka, and as we have done in the previous texts, Mangala Shloka, Mangalacharanam, before starting anything, an invocatory verse is made, and this invocatory verse is picked up from Brahmanda Purana. My own opinion in this is, Probably because just before the passages of the Mahabharata was all a description of earth, various things, planet. So this Brahmanda Purana is the whole thing on creation, a lot of information on creation. So this verse, because it's going to be Bhagvān Uvacha, Bhagvān being Krishna, Krishna being Vishnu, Vishnu being Narayan, Narayan being Mahanarayan, Shankara brings it over here. And he says, Narayana paro vyaktat. Somebody wants to follow me?
I can do it, Ditiji. Narayanah paro vyaktat
Andam avyakta sambhavam.
andam avyakta sambhavam
Andasyantastvime lokaha.
andasyantasvime lokaha
Andasyantastvime.
andasyantasvime lokaha
Saptadvipa cha medini.
saptadvipa cha medini
Narayana paro vyaktat. Andam avyakta sambhavam.
Narayanah paro vyaktat andamavyakta sambhavam
Andasyantastvime lokaha.
andasyantasvime lokaha
Andasyantastvime.
andasyantasvime lokaha saptadvipa cha medini
Narayana paro vyaktat. Andam avyakta sambhavam. Andasyantastvime lokaha. Saptadvipa cha medini.
Narayanah paro vyaktat andamavyakta sambhavam andasyantastvime lokaha saptadvipa cha medini.
So the words are Narayanaha Paraha Avyaktat. Andam Avyakta Sambhavam. Andasya Antaha Tu ime lokaha Saptadvipa Chamedini. Narayanaha, the very first word. Who is Narayan? There are a few meanings. I'm going to not give all of them, just what is in the context. One meaning is, it comes from the root nri, na and ru, dirgha ru. Nri. Nri means to take away. To harlena, to take away. What does it take? It takes away, or it leads you. It connects. Nara, Nara. Nara is human, manushya. Nara is pertaining to. Ayana means abode, adhar, adhishtan. So Narayana is one who is taking the manushya to his destination, let's put it, based on karma. Karma or phal. Pertaining to human, ayana, being ashraya, adhishthan, another meaning of it is coming from another root, the ayana word from E root, dhatu E, means sakshi, seer. Seer, the sakshi of the nar. Sakshi, nar ka sakshi is Narayan. Is here as a sakshi. मनुष्य में साक्षी नारायण, उसको नारायण कहते हैं. The sakshi tattva is called Narayan. Who is this Narayan? Avyaktat paraha. Paraha means usse bhi dur, beyond, transcended, untouched, far, far higher, superior. Paraha. Uske par hai. It's beyond its reach. Avyakt ke par hai. What is avyakta? Avyakta srishti. Avyakta purusha. When this avyakta has manifested, it is vyakta. Vyakti, I have always said this in the past. Vyakti ka matlab kya hai? Even if you understand this much, there's a great sfurta of encouragement, inspiration. If I am a vyakti, we call vyakti as an individual. Vyakti is manifested. This manifested has come from its unmanifest. So this, what we've done in Tattvabodha in great details also, if you remember anybody, this entire manifest, where is it rooted? Has it come from nowhere? No. Here, Shastra is saying, this Advaita Sampradaya will hold this perception, this model of creation, that whatever has vyaktata, whatever is manifested, whatever is contactable, whatever is seeable, hearable, tasteable, touchable, whatever has a form, whatever can move, whatever can travel, whatever can breathe, this entire Jagat is a manifest and has come from unmanifest. It stays in its unmanifest state. The unmanifest is what has become manifest. The best example for it is seed of any plant or any tree. The entire tree is unmanifest in the seed state. In its seed form, the tree, with all its capacity to produce fruits and more seeds, with infinite leaves, changing seasons, growingness of the tree, till it also dies, the entire tree, expression of that manifestation and expression of the life cycle that that tree holds, that is unmanifest in the seed form. In the seed, you cannot see the tree. The tree is potential in the seed. You cannot in the seed discover a tree. But the seed will manifest as the tree. avyaktat becomes the cause, the karan of Jagat. This avyaktam which is creation in its seed form. Creation in its seed form. The entire creation in its seed form means in the seed form you cannot see the distinctions, the separations. In its seed form you cannot see the fruit distinct from the leaf, the flower distinct from the leaf. Indistinct. The distinction is not available. That's avyakta. I'm forgetting where. I'm trying to remember. One of the places avyakta is said to be that where it is neither sat nor asat. What is sat? Existence. Asat is non-existence. Avyakta is unmanifest, which is holding in it the entire potential of creation. It holds in it the entire details of creation. Every created, जितनी भी योनियां हैं, जितने भी flowers and fruits and the variety of life, everything in its indistinct state is avyakta. Avyakt se pare means if avyakt is the cause of the what? Andam. Avyaktam sambhavam. From this avyaktam has come this andam. Andam is actually this creation only, you'll have to call it. Here he is given the translation cosmic egg. Means Brahmanda. Brahma-anda. Brahmanda. This entire Brahmanda, which is whole creation, from avyaktam has come this andam in which all the details have manifested. I'll repeat this. Narayanaha is beyond, untouched by avyaktam. Avyaktam, from avyaktam has come this andam, is born, this sambhavam is born. This andam. Andasya antaha. Antaha means within. Within this andam, this Brahmandam, this huge cosmic egg, call it. This Brahmand is a good word. Galaxy is also small. This, within it, Tu ime lokaha are all these lokas. All the lokas is how all Brahmandam has all the lokas. 14 lokas, more lokas, whatever you want to call it. The entire created comes from avyaktam, andam, within this andam. Normally, what is our idea of manifest? बाहर निकल जाता है ना? The idea of manifest is it's separated out. Idea of birth is it is separated out from its parent. There is a separation idea with reference to creation. Creation means as if it has come from something and it has now come out. The best example I can find is the entire creation that we contact is space, is that andam. Everything is in space. So the creation, this is an example. Brahman here, Narayan is beyond, far beyond space. Space is also in. Narayan is supporting the space also. So, lokaha, all these lokaha are in this andam. Within this entire andam, Brahmandam, is one Medini. Medini means Prithvi, earth. That Medini, and he qualifies it to say Saptadvipa, which has 7, as we all know now, 7 continents. Saptadvipa Medini. This Prithvi is also called manushya-loka, martya-loka. Manushya-loka by Lakshartha. Why? Because of all the forms of life that is possible on earth itself, this Prithvi, there is only one life form, one womb, human womb, where there is a possibility of generating karmas in a way that you can accumulate a lot of punya, or you can fall to the deepest, means accumulate papa, fall to the deepest, lowest level of existence. That manifestation of the karma to the karma phal is what makes creation. So, Saptadvipa cha Medini, this Martya-lokaha has the epitome as Manushya-lokaha, whose bhumi is Karma Bhumi, which is this earth. There are too many connections. I don't know how much have you grasped it. Yes. Okay. I'll repeat myself a little. Narayanaha is the Sakshi, the primal being, the universal being, who is, which is, whatever you want to call it, beyond the creative capacity. Avyaktam means creation in potential form. So when there is, supposing there is in the present time, there is a nuclear war, and the entire earth is swaha. All life forms have gone swaha. Have they really gone extinct? What Puranas would say, when the pralaya comes, during pralaya, mahapralaya, pralaya keeps happening again and again and again and again. It's not one time, or it keeps recurring. Prabhava and pralaya keep going together, but then mahapralaya means now everything is coming back into its unmanifest state. In unmanifest state, all the jiva rashis are held in a potential state, indistinct from each other. But as the karma phal will mature itself, another srishti, that according to that, creation begins to grow again. Just as seasonal fruits, seasonal vegetables, seasonal flowers, as the season comes, there is creation. Season rolls. In that season, they have a whole life cycle. Season rolls. Avyakta, unmanifest, comes back when seasons roll back. Now, this avyaktam, when it opens up, means when the creative change begins to happen, then there is this, cosmic egg is a good translation, andam. It's when you visualize as if this is going to be a huge circumference within which there is creation. Space is not a circumference, but you cannot conceive of any object outside space. That means this entire creation is actually within the substratum, the adhishthana, the sakshi, recognized as sakshi. All these lokas, and in which one of them is Saptadvipa, earth. And here, another meaning of Narayan would mean Nara at an individual level. This Nara here, this human here, the Sakshi of this human is that Narayan who is running the show, is what I would say in a very normal language. Who runs the show without being recognized, seen, registered, figured out, understood, not perceptible also to the senses. So in the, like now we have our continents as different names, but in the Puranas, the name of, say, here, in amongst all the planets, Medini, Saptadvipa, amongst all the dvipas, islands, there is one island which is Bharata. That was Jambu Dweep. Just by the way, that's an information not so relevant really. So once again I'm doing, because it's going to connect to the Bhashyam later on. This is a fairly, it's one of the invocations which is Namaskritya, of course. You're doing your pranam. It's auspicious. Your Narayan is the whole source of everything as that, and also as reminding, showing us the Lakshana, the by saying Narayan is Paraha Avyaktat, it helps us to register the Vastu. So it kind of points to the Vastu, the Nirdesh of the Vastu. It tells us what is the truth of all this. So, Narayanaha Paraha Avyaktat. Is there a question?
Oh, there are flies in the
Too
room.
many flies.
Flies in the room, sorry.
Sorry.
I have a question also. I didn't get the part where you were talking about it's only the humans that the womb allows to do karma.
Of all the species, no species has as much freedom and free will to go against its ingrained nature. Only a human being has so much capacity to go against their own ingrained nature with a free will. So they can generate absolutely unique actions they can do. They can do karmas which no one else can do, and they can dedicate the karma to, so for whom will you do? Like how we say, epitome of womanhood is her motherhood. Supposing, ideally, all this is very ideal. But what does that mean? That capacity of her to be working for her children or her family. It can be for men also. Paurushyam. To be able to dedicate the action for something more than oneself. Born from knowledge, understanding, which has brought maybe care, concern, etc. That is called free will. So, karma means your capacity to generate karma uniquely, specifically, is capable only in a human state. Every other species will have limitation of their capacity to act outside their nature. But human beings can, if they want.
When you say other species and outside their nature, we are not talking about the true nature as being Atman and Brahman.
No. Here's because karma means now you are an individual.
Right.
Otherwise, at that level, yes, everything is only Brahman, but they won't have the capacity to know.
We are talking about the individual nature.
Yeah. So actually in the Shastra, why I brought this up is because whenever the word Prithvi here onwards, Earth, Prithvi, there's a topic that comes up, what about the other species? What about the other life forms? So Shastra uses the word Prithvi to give the Lakshana of manushya-loka. It points only to Manushya. So Loka here means manushya-loka.
So, Deepti ji, this is sounding very similar to the whole concept of Maya and Brahman. Is that correct?
Yes, totally. I just avoided the word because some of us haven't heard it here. But absolutely the same thing. So we did it when we did that. Avyaktam is Maya. So Brahman with Maya brings the whole creation. The model of creation. Over here, it is now specific that Nirguna Brahman has been given the first meaning. And in Puranas, the meaning is Ayanaha is also bed of water. So the one who's residing in the bed of water, that Mahavishnu is Narayana. So, but now when we come to the Bhashyam, we will see what he's connecting it to Krishna ultimately. So far we are all okay? Should we go ahead? So now he says, Shankara starting it, and was one moment of gratitude in our own hearts, for without the grace of Ishvara, I don't know if we can ever finish this. Let's see. So he says, Saha Bhagavan. That Bhagwan. Tishtva idam. Every paragraph I won't do like this. Wherever it's important, I'm taking it. Tishtva idam. Having created this Jagat. So what is the first line? That Bhagwan having created this Jagat. Then what? Once he's created, now when you make a home, build a home, you create a home. Home means house. You create a house of brick and mortar and cement. Then what do? You equipped it well. Then what do? You start living in. Then what do? To be able to continue to live in, what do you have to do?
Maintain it.
Maintain it. You have to maintain. Once there is something in creation, you have to now maintain it. Tasya cha, that Jagat that has now got created, thitim, to maintain it. Chikirshuhu, as if with a desire to maintain it, will have to, desire or no, you have to maintain it. But here, Bhagwan, as if with a desire to maintain it. What did he do? Sustain it, correct. Maricyadin agre srishtva prajapatin. Maricyadi, he created the first lot, Maricyadi. I'm skipping the details. Having first created that, srishtva, prajapatis, all the prajapati, the names of different prajapatis, the first beings. So incidentally over there when we did avyaktam, that is Maya, that is also Hiranyagarbha, the very first, Prathama Jaha, the firstborn. They are prajapatis now. What did he do, Bhagwan? Pravriti lakshanam dharmam grahyamasaha Veda uktam. With a desire to sustain the creation, he created the Prajapatis and he gave them, made them grasp, grahyamasaha, made them grasp dharma, which is of the nature of pravriti. Pravriti dharam was given to them. What is pravriti dharam? Pravriti means in motion, constantly in motion. Dharma which will apply in motion. Then, so one dharma is pravriti dharma. Then, anyancha, he created another lot. Sanandanadin, Sanandana Adi, the four Sanakputras. Utpadya, he created these, and what did he do? Grahyamasa, he endowed them with Nivritti Lakshana Dharma, with the Dharma of Nivritti. And what is a Nivritti Dharma? Jnana Vairagya Lakshana. It is having the characteristic of knowledge and Vairagya, Vivek, Vairagya. Nivritti Lakshana Marg, Dharma, followers of it will become Nivritti Lakshan Marg, the path of Nivritti. What is it characterized by? Gyan and Vairagya. Other than that, there's a path of action, Karam ka Marg, Pravritti ka Marg. He's left it over here because Gita is going to explain it. Dvivido hi Vedokta Dharmaha. They are both dharmas, Veda Uktaha Dharma, as said as Vedas. In the Vedas, these two dharmas have been given with what purpose? Anyone? The two paths have been laid out in the Vedas with what purpose?
Continuous and being able to give gyan to people coming to next generation.
Bhagwan has given both these paths for what purpose?
Moksha.
Okay. One is he given it for?
So people know how to live life
उद्धार करने के लिए
for moksha.
Okay. Vivido hi vedokta dharmaha. He gave both these dharmas. Which two dharmas? Pravritti lakshan, nivritti lakshan. For what purpose? Jagataha sthiti karanam. For the sustenance, yes. To sustain, yes. To upkeep. सृष्टि जगत की स्थिति का कारण स्थिति के लिए sustenance of the house, sustenance of this jagat that he has enabled. There are two paths, two dharmas. Path is a very, when I use the word path, I go off to the mountains. Adventurous path. Path वो होता है. So these are dharmas. That means you abide in certain rules. Either the rules of pravritti or the rules of nivritti. Even a person who goes mountaineering, if you have read any of their life histories or preparations that they do, before, if I have a desire to go to the Everest, climb a mountain, the level of preparation and the acceptance, there is so much humbleness in those people because they know that actually the mountain rules them. They don't know whether they are coming back alive or not. There's a very distinct acceptance of as if the mountain has its own nature. It's got its own pravritti. It's got its own characteristic. So for the sake of the upkeep of Jagat, maintenance of Jagat, ye Jagat, as long as this whole Jiva Rashi has to take cycle here, life cycle here, as many have come in this Yuga, this Kalpa, I've forgotten the time cycle at the moment, Manvantara. As long as in this Manvantara, under this Manu, there will be so many cycles, and the Puranas have given great details. Within one Manvantara, there is this life cycles that have to go through, life forms. Each one has their own written and they're writing continuously. For the upkeep of the sthiti, creation has to be kept alive. Very important. This paragraph has absolutely one of the missing pieces. If there were a jigsaw puzzle and somebody was trying to figure things out, this paragraph is one of the missing pieces there. So for the sake of sthiti karanam, Veda uktaha, Vedas give out. Bhagwan gave it to Sanak Sananadi and Marichiyadi rishis, Pravritti Marg and Nivritti Marg, which the Vedas talk of for the sake of the sustenance of creation, continuity of creation, for the health of creation, because only if the creation is healthy will it stay alive. So to keep the creation in manifest state, to keep the creation manifested, these two dharmas are stated. For what reason? Praninam, those who are pranis. And according to the Puranas, anything that has a little movement is a prani. The trees are also pranis. Praninam sakshat abhyudaya nishreyasa hetuhu. These two dharmas are direct means for hetu. They are direct cause. प्राणियों का हित के लिए, अभ्युदय, for their prosperity, for their welfare, for their nourishment, for their enrichment, and nishreyasa, for their moksha. So, for their absolute welfare and for their immediate welfare, these two dharmas have been laid out by Bhagvān himself in the Vedas. These dharmas are categorized Brahmanadihi, Varnibhihi, Ashramibhihi, Preyarthibhihi, Anushtiyamanaha. These dharmas, when they are followed by, lived with, in the form of their respective classes, stages of life, Brahman, Varna, Ashram, Sannyasa, Grahastha, etc. Doesn't matter. When they're lived as per your stage of life, then you're living those dharmas. Anushtiyamana, you abide in them, you follow them. Then there is sthiti, sustained. There is sustenance of creation. This is one para. Is that okay so much? Bhagwan has created two paths, two marg, two dharmas, pravriti and nivritti, for the sake of sustenance and for the welfare of people, pranis, for their upkeep, for moksha also. When these dharmas are abided, there is sustenance of creation. And everybody will follow their own higher call and keep pursuing it and have abhyudaya and nishreyas through these paths. Clear so far? Okay, related. But he says, now this Shankara is saying this. And when I read it the first time, it was something very amazing. Dirgha kalena, but with passage of time. When was Shankara? We don't even know. When they say 8th BC, it's not correct. 6th BC, AD, it's not so correct. Definitely much before. Dirghena kalena, but with passage of time in creation. Anushtatrinam, those who abide in it, kamod bhavat, by the rise of kama in them, by the rise of kam ki ichhaएं, kam bhavna, pursuit of kama, artha kama, so pursuit of pleasures, seeking, nature, pursuit of comfort seeking, pursuit of instant gratification, instant pleasures, they start rising, because to follow dharmas, this is a highly disciplined life. But with passage of time, the abiders, those who follow dharma, they start giving up because of the rise of kama, pursuit. And then what happens? Why does the rise of kama happen? Hiyamana, destroyed. Something's got destroyed. When did the kama bhavna arise? When something got destroyed. What got destroyed? Viveka vijnana. When the capacity to think, knowledge, gets destroyed, then that destruction of thinking capacity, put it in a normal language, the destruction of सोचने की आदत छूट जाती है ना हमारी, as we just stop thinking. At a certain point, thinking needs effort, thinking is a tapas. Very soon it's tiring. Who wants to think so much? Let's just give in. Let's just do what is now. Let's just give in. Give in is the right thing. Let's just give in to the pleasure. Let's just do as the world says. So that kind of a hiyamana, dhire dhire, it gets reduced and then it's destroyed. Kam hote hote. Viveka vijnana. That becomes the reason for kama udbhavaha. Why is kama risen? Because the capacity to think knowledge-based falls. Because of which, what happens? Adharmena abhibhuyamane dharme. Those who give in to kama udbhava, now, because of the rise of kama, start giving in to adharma. Instant pleasures, instant gratifications, they give up what their roles are, they don't follow the disciplines. So, adharma abhibhuyamana. Pravardhamane cha adharme. So when the dharma gets overpowered, abhibhuyamana means it's overpowered by adharma. Which are the two dharmas? Pravriti, nivritti. Followed by people will give you abhyuday, nishrayas. But with time, what happens? People stop thinking, stop abiding in the dharma. Kama rises. Instant pleasure, we give up the dharma itself. Therefore, dharma gets overpowered by adharmic tendencies, adharmic nature. Adharmic nature overpowers your own capacity to follow dharma. Then what happens? Pravardhamane cha adharme. With the growth of adharma, in the growth of adharma, jagataha sthitim paripipalaishuha. Paripipalaishuha. The one who was a desirer of sustenance of creation, Jagat Sthiti ka palanhar, who wishes to keep the creation alive, Saha Ādi Karta Narayana Akhyaha. That very first manifested, called Narayana. Vishnu Bhaumasya, also called Vishnu here. Brahmanaha Brahmanatvasya Rakshanartham. For the sake of protecting those who are still trying to follow dharma when the adharma rises. Am I making connection? So because of the passage of time, there will be infiltrations, the other viewpoints increase. Then there is, like in the modern times, science has taken us over. Then reasoning and then sense pleasures have taken us over. Charvakas have increased. That's why it's important to understand what they are. So with the rise of all this, society will keep seeing this. There'll always be a bunch and group of people who will become followers of Artha and Kama alone. Then they have an uprising. They rise in strength. When they rise in strength, then those who follow dharmas are subdued. They can't speak up. Like till a few years ago, I still remember. Even talking of Vedanta, unless you represent it in a liberal way, you spoke in English, you gave a few Shakespeare quotations, you gave a few poems, and nobody would bother. What is this ancient knowledge that you're talking about? It's only thanks now, I think, is a slightly better time. There's more courage to speak what this is all about. But there is a time when you could not so freely speak at this time. There will be again a time when you will not be able to speak probably so freely about what this culture is all about, what this knowledge is. Or you'll have to modify it, or present it so that you are not ridiculed, you are not, So the knowledge, who's writing this Dirgha Kalena? It's not just present time. In every time is the learning. This happens in nature. There'll always be this struggle. That's why the setting of Mahabharata is so important to remember. There's always going to be a struggle of those forces which are pulling you for your higher and those forces which will tempt you to your instant gratification. The Duryodhanas and the Pandavas are always going to be in a tussle. So with time, he says, because of the rise of Kama, why did the Kama rise? Kama Purushartha rise? Because of the Viveka Buddhi fallen. Quality of thinking has fallen. People don't think. Period. सोचना ही नहीं अच्छा लगता किसी को. So when you do not like to think at all, everything's okay. तुम भी ठीक, मैं भी ठीक, ये भी ठीक, वो भी ठीक. Everything is all right. So there is no dharma to be followed. Each one is a master of his own will. What he thinks is right is right. Is the difference clear? So according to my mind, whatever is right is right. So once this starts happening, actual followers of dharma who will sincerely try and abide in the dharmas, they get overpowered in number and in voice. Number as in there is decline of those who follow dharma, and there is a possibility of extinction. So for their protection, to protect the Brahmanatvam. What is Brahmanatvam? The capacity to pursue Brahman. So Brahman is not just a jati. The one who keeps Brahman foremost in his pursuit is a Brahmin. To protect the Brahmanatvam, Rakshanartham, Devakyam Vasudevat Amshena. So, Devaki Putra, Vasudeva, Krishna, Kila Sambabhuva, Vasudeva Amsha, Devaki and Vasudeva Amsha. Krishna is born, rises, manifests. Not born is a wrong word. Manifests. Brahmanatvasya hi rakshane rakshitaha syat. Only when the Brahmanatvam has been protected, they're allowed, the freedom is left with them to protect Brahman, to pursue Brahman as a pursuit itself. To keep Brahman as a foremost pursuit. Vaidikaha dharmaha, rakshitaha sat vaidikaha dharmaha, tat adhinatvat. Therefore, to uphold the Brahmanatvam is the Vaidika dharma. And who upholds the Vaidika dharma is the Varna Ashrama Bhedat dharmaha. Under whom is the Varna Ashrama Bhedaha. So, having created this Jagat, for the sake of sustenance of the Jagat, so that the creation continues in a healthy way, those who pursue the truth must also follow their dharma. Those who want nishrayas must also abide in dharmas. But if, as and when, whenever, wherever, there will be a tilt in the form of more and more pleasure-seeking nature expresses itself in Srishti, the sthiti of Srishti will become imbalanced. Creation will be unhealthy. To protect the creation, Bhagvān Krishna here, Sambhabhuva, arises, manifests to protect the Vaidika dharma. So that, come back to the first line, that Jagata Sthiti is maintained. Is the paragraph clear? As best. First time. Great.
Okay. Dipti, is this it's not near though the very popular verse, the verse of Mahabharata that we say Sambhavami Abhyuthanam Dharmasya
It is.
Tadatmanam.
It is.
It's Is the same meaning, but is it close to that in the like physically close to that in the Gita or in the
No.
Mahabharata?
This is Shankara giving a introduction to the Gita.
Right. This is from Brahman Puran, you said.
No, not Bhashyam is not from Brahmanda Puran. Only the verse, invocatory verse, is from Brahmanda Puran. This is Bhashyam, the tradition as they held this explanation. Why, how do you explain Krishna? All that introduction is going to be.
Hanji, got that. Okay. Yeah. But this just reminded me so much of that verse, so I thought maybe it's close to. But yeah, it can't be close because this is a separate text.
It is close in meaning. It's not a separate text. It is in Gita only. It comes in the 4th chapter.
No, right. But the Bhashyam is
Dushkratam Dharma Samsthapanarthaya Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. That Krishna himself says there. But here, Shankara is giving this introduction
to the Bhashyam
by connecting it, the entire Gita. So one of them portions will be Sambhavami also. He has to establish the authority of Krishna.
Oh.
Because Krishna is your teacher here now. So who is Krishna? So he's so beautifully said it. If you actually go to the spirit of it, you really revel in it. He even says that Narayan is born as Vasudevan and Devaki Putra, as Krishna here, to reinstate Dharma. So what is the purpose of Gita? Reinstating Dharma. Only then will you get the message of the entire Gita. So what does it talk to us? It's not talking to Arjuna. So every time Gita is spoken in the creation, every time Gita has manifested in creation, Bhagvān manifested, Gita manifested. And since then, Parampara has kept the Gita alive. They are not dead words. That Parampara itself, the Gita is speaking to us to reinstate Dharma. So wherever the Gita is having an Uccharanam, it's the same thing. It's not tab hua tha. It is in the present context. Gita has a relevance, purpose. It is the same words. Every time it has been uttered, every time there's adhyanam of it, every time, that's why that Gita Mahatmyam verses, even the chanting of it is again restating, re-establishing, reinforcing Brahmanatvam and reducing the Kamodbhavam in a person. It is only the rise of Kama in us that pushes us to do wrong things. He's going to explain it very beautifully. The less I say and the less this gets done is better, because this speaks directly. But of course, you'll have to hold it in the intellect. And so if there's any confusion, please always raise and ask, because you should not remain unclear about. We are going to go very slow with this portion now. And this is not very slow, but enough for you to grasp. The speed of it will be determined by if you've understood or not. Okay? So yes, of course, if everyone keeps their videos open on, then it'll help me better. I cannot enforce it. So here now, okay. I think we'll have to end here. It's time. Any question? Is the first paragraph now fairly clear? Of course, you may have to redo it. But the basic idea is this Narayan is now here as Krishna. Narayan gave out the two dharmas, Pravriti and Nivritti. Vedas talk of these two dharmas. Pravriti is entire Karma Kand, Nivritti is entire Gyan Kand. So, dharmas that make you abide in Karma Kand is the Pravriti marg. Dharmas that make you abide in the Jnana Kand is the Nivritti marg. But slowly, or whenever, temptations for fulfillment of pleasure-seeking mode is on in us. That button is on. Live your life for mazza and nothing but majja. क्या करना है? मज्जा करना. What are you doing? मजे कर रहे हैं. क्या करने का कुछ है? करने कुछ नहीं. What is there to do in life? क्या है? कल क्या कर? Oof, don't ask. Too much work. I wish there was no work. I wish we could just live aram se. I wish I had a house in the hills somewhere where in this beautiful monsoon weather and there was garam chai and I had nothing to do. I wish it was all, you know, why should we struggle so hard in life? Why is there work to do? Why do we only have to do so much work? And truly speaking, human beings are the least working people of all species. Human beings don't work. Even that small proportion, just as like we say in India, there's a very small proportion which gives income tax. Whereas in the entire human population, there's a very small proportion which actually works. All of us like to just eat the fruits. So this is exactly what he's saying. When that arise, बहुत ज़्यादा जब बढ़ जाता है ना हमारे अंदर, तो हमारा ही sense of dharma, what we should be doing, हिल जाता है. It subdues. Actually, हिल जाता है वो ढक जाता है, छुप जाता है, unmanifest हो जाता है. It's out of our cognition. Then pleasure mode is on. So, what is Shankara here saying? What is Acharyas here talking about? They are saying that to reinstate the reminder of dharma, follow your dharmas. Who will need that the most? Who has lost the way of dharma? उसी को याद करना, उसी को पढ़ा, उसी को सिखाना, उसी को याद कराना है, उसी के cognition में लाना पड़ेगा. Even if you want welfare, even if you want abhyudayam, you will only get it by following dharma. Dharma is the cause. This is a very important line. I'm glad we stopped there, otherwise I would have moved on and I would have missed this point. Dharma is the cause for abhyudaya. And dharma is the cause for moksha. हेतु है वो, reason है. So if anybody says that you are going to get abhyudayam through adharmic means, it is not going to sustain. There may be some instant gain, but you will lose it also. As quickly as it must have come, quicker it will be lost. Or you will have a lot of pain to pay it off with. But if you want abhyudaya means that which will be beneficial to life. Dharma is the way for it. That is why we spend some time trying to understand dharma, because the whole crux of knowledge is centered on dharma in Bhagavad Gita. आपका धर्म क्या है? आप कितना धर्म फॉलो करते हो? धार्मिक means आप कितना भजन करते हो भगवान, वो that's not dharma. Vaidika dharma, he says. Pravriti lakshan, nivritti lakshan is Vaidika dharma. So who in this definition is a dharmic purusha? Who follows his dharma? So if I am a teacher, what is my dharma supposed to be? Teach. If I am a student, what is my dharma supposed to be?
Studying.
Learn. Study. If I am a business person, what is if I am a business person, what is my dharma supposed to be?
To provide products honestly at a fair price.
If I am a teacher, should I be a business person?
No.
Actually, we all have dharmas in our common sense. If I mix the teaching with business, if I make my teaching a business,
It's
Then
happening
you won't
to
be able to do justice to your
Sorry?
teaching. Then you won't be able to do justice to your teaching.
only that. Did you say, Priyanka?
I'm saying it's happening today. Your entire
Exactly.
conscious changes, and you see
Absolutely.
teaching.
Absolutely. You see why everything falls in society. If a soldier mixes his dharma, what happens? When a politician mixes his dharma, What is he supposed to do? And what does he do? When a journalist mixes his dharma, when a parent mixes the dharma, that is the whole. That's where we said, if you are even sincere, there'll be conflicts like Arjuna had. So that becomes the whole context of.
So, Deepti ji, you mentioned that with time, Vivek and Virag Buddhi reduces and people are becoming more adharmic. So the only reason is they want to make life easy? Is that
Yes, yes. They want to fall for easy life. That's how our whole, why we are moving towards so much of changes on the planet and things like that. All our lifestyle is geared to making it easy for everyone. That is what we call liberty. Right. Is only human got a right? Other pranis don't have rights. Now this only Vaidika samskara makes. That's why we say only one culture can bring everyone in their fold, but we cannot be taken into another fold. Nobody can understand this. When I will work for my right, I will also work for other pranis' right. They also have a right on the creation. वो भी तो अपना कर्म फल भोग रहे हैं. Every living form here is got creation for their creation to exhaust their, not only just karma, but whatever life cycle they have earned. Okay, we'll stop here. Yes, absolutely. Correct. Right, so we'll take up the second paragraph tomorrow. If there's any question, I'll still give preference to the question. Yeah.
I do have a question. I wanted to ask, I don't know if it will be relevant for everybody, but I thought I will ask and you can answer whenever you think fit. I did want to ask you in detail what would be the dharma of a teacher, because I teach, so it's very, and we were discussing it. And you said that when it mixes with business,
It's not
of course.
too long. Just ask yourself, what do you think should be the dharma of a teacher?
To look after the welfare of students, the immediate and long-term welfare of students.
What is the opposite of it? What will not be dharma as a teacher?
To do something which will be beneficial for you but not for them, detrimental for them.
Maybe just detrimental, or that is really extreme, yeah. But just not giving your best to empower them. Working for your own salary, working for your own upgrade, become assistant professor, or whatever. Looking only towards your own self, looking for your own promotion. And you're just doing your teaching as a whatever.
Like just getting by. Jitna minimum hai, utna kiya, and then,
We know it ourselves actually.
Yeah.
I always say, if you can do a little better, then that means you can do a little better. There is a time when you know this is my limit. I couldn't have done anything better. That by third chapter you will start recognizing that is what Krishna will say. वो मुझे अर्पण कर दो. What is your best effort? And you know that I just couldn't have done, and there was nothing more I could have ever done. This is my best I could have. Because when you will say teach, you're teaching it for the sake of someone else. No? There are only two ways in which you can teach. In modern ways, they are also said another reason to teach is because it strengthens your knowledge. even in that your focus will change. If you're doing it only to strengthen by sharing knowledge, you gain knowledge, कहते हैं ना दुनिया में. You give, so you give. Knowledge is one thing, जितनी देते हो उतनी मिलती है, and all that. Yes, of course, for your sake also, if for Manan, if you're doing this subject is maybe different, but regular, all of us know, and we don't need all areas to be like that. By the time we come to third and fourth chapter, even this much, if you're able to follow, there's so much relaxation on this path, on this life. Even this much, if you will do, once you know you've done your best, followed your dharma the best, that in that moment, in that capacity of your understanding, with that limited knowledge at that time what you had, and you thought, this is my best dharma to follow. There is no perfect thing in dharma. You have to do it and leave it then. That grows you. It's a whole, sometimes you wonder, genuinely, it is a path of magic. It's a path of miracles. Everything becomes a easy way. आराम से हो जाता है. Because मुश्किल तब आती है जब स्व बीच में आता है. स्वाभिमान. स्व, that मैं, मेरा, धृतराष्ट्र. जब वो बीच में आता है, then difficulties start happening in life. If you're following the wheel of nature, if you're one of the spokes in the wheel of nature that Bhagwan has set, and your job is to only do what falls in your periphery, that's all you are supposed to do. I am not supposed to go lead the nation. I'm not supposed to be fighting on the border. I'm not supposed to hold meetings and say, okay, stock exchange, my decision can drop the whole stock of the country. I'm not supposed to go and sit in a research lab and start finding a cure for cancer and AIDS. Whatever are you designed for, that you have designed yourself for rather, there is your dharma. When does karma come here? When you want more than that. The minute karma is the one which will obstruct the dharma, pursuit of dharma, following the dharma. Okay? Lot of material for thoughts, no? Who wants to conclude? Who started? Ji, aapne. Neetu ji, will you conclude the class?
जी. ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु, सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु, सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. गुरुभ्यो